Okay, this is a presentation on, well, it has to be one of my favorite topics, getting the next scheduled. One of the big three shifts that I always talk about, getting the next scheduled meeting. So here we go. Quick note, if you look up and to the right, you'll see a little eye icon there. If you click on that now or later in the presentation, it's not going anywhere. You will be able to download a special bonus, something I put together called the Ultimate Guide to Ending No-Shows. Really, it is a comprehensive process for everything from how you set a meeting, all the steps to go through in terms of confirming, when you're calling into a meeting. I've developed a very special sequence for ensuring that you actually get them to pick up the phone. Sounds interesting, but you'll see what I mean. And then if in fact you do have a no-show, the most powerful way to get a reschedule back on the calendar. So you can either click on the eye icon up in the right-hand corner, or there's also a link in the description below. So if you think about selling and the activities that occur between prospects and customers, our prospects and customers, and us as the salesperson, you can really break it down into four key areas, right? There's not all that many things, right? There's lots of different kinds of things, but they can be all put into four basic categories, right? In terms of interactions, there are scheduled and unscheduled interactions. Scheduled interactions being those that are on our calendar. We call those a meeting. And unscheduled interactions, i.e. tasks, right? We call them, we email them, they call us, things that are not time-bound. In the non-interaction world, there is the stuff that we have to do, build, create for them, customize a proposal, prepare for a demo, in a lot of cases, putting together a presentation. And then there's the delivery of stuff. And the reason I'm categorizing these four areas is because I want to show you how we tend to move in and out of these four different types of work throughout the sales process. So scheduled and unscheduled work, and then doing stuff, making stuff, getting a discount, what have you, and then delivering the stuff, presenting the revised pricing or the discount or what have you. As we go through the sales process, right, I've color-coded these things so that we can think about what's happening in a scheduled versus unscheduled mode. So cold calling is unscheduled work, right? It's tasks, it's activities. We're not planning on calling them at 3 p.m. exactly because they're not waiting for our call. However, when we convert a cold call into a first scheduled interaction, typically a first meeting, that is a calendar event, right? We put that on our calendar. Hopefully, in most cases, when you have a first scheduled meeting, you will be trying to convert that into a next scheduled activity, i.e. a discovery, right? In a lot of cases, you'll be performing a discovery, asking a lot of questions, and most often that turns into something like, well, can we see your product? Can we see your presentation? And I use the term presentation, but you could also use the term demo interchangeably. So we ideally, in most cases, again, schedule that future presentation. That's the green arrow right there, or the green box, with the prospect. And between now and then, we work to create or customize that presentation. And then the day comes and we deliver the presentation. And lo and behold, the prospect says, well, I'd like to see a proposal, right? And we say, great, we'll have a proposal to you next Thursday. And I want you to pay attention here because this is where, at least in my mind, the wheels tend to come off. We create the proposal. We have a date in the future where we've committed to send the proposal. And in fact, on that date, blue, we send the proposal, right? But in most cases, we haven't tied any specific scheduled next interaction to that very important event called the delivery of the proposal. Now, sometimes we do a proposal review and we say, we'll present the proposal, when we've created it and present it to you. So that might be a scheduled meeting. But most often, what does the prospect say? Hey, this is great. We're going to think about it. And we run off saying, great, well, we'll follow up, right? So all this hard work, and this is really the point of this slide, not to belabor it, but I think it is important. All of this incredibly hard work of the sales process devolves into unscheduled follow-up. And I'm telling you, in the vast majority of organizations that I walk into, at some point in the sales process, the salesperson gives over, if you will, the scheduled interaction dynamic to an unscheduled dynamic and goes back into follow-up mode, right where we were at the beginning. So that to me is the crux of the problem. That is the challenge that we're here to try and solve today, is how do we not let that happen? Why do we do it? How does it happen? And then what do we do to avoid it? So we'll keep going here. I live in Colorado, and we do lots of outdoorsy stuff. So when I'm doing this in front of a group, I often say, so what's this gentleman doing? And almost universally people will yell out, well, he's fly fishing. And I say, actually, no, he's not fly fishing. He's fly casting, right? I'm an avid fly fisherman. I love to fish everywhere in here in Colorado. But fly fishing is a bit of a misnomer, right? Fishing is actually this, right? When you have a fish on the hook, and it actually comprises a very small percentage of the time on the water, for better or worse. This is fly casting, right? You're waving the stick in the air and then floating the line in the water, trying to attract a fish. And we know that we're not actually fishing with a fish on the hook because the rod is generally straight, certainly if it's on the water. The line is slack, and I'm moving it around a lot. When it comes to having a fish on, we instantly know that the fish is on because the line goes tight, the rod bends over, right? And we have connectivity to the fish, and we can feel it right there. I use this as a metaphor because for me, having a next scheduled is very much like having a fish, or I should say a hook in a fish's mouth. When you have it, you know it. The line is tight and the rod is bent over, right? And when it's not, it's slack and the rod is straight. Well, one of the things here in Colorado is a lot of the great places to fish are what they call gold medal waters. And gold medal waters require that you fish with barbless hooks, meaning you pinch down the barb on the hook so it doesn't hold in the fish's mouth and it's easy to take out. Well, the good news is that's easy on the fish for a catch and release kind of environment. The challenge is that the fish can get off the hook pretty easily, right? If the fish jumps out of the water or you're not playing the fish correctly, pop, the hook goes out of the mouth, and you know the fish is no longer on the hook, no longer on the line, because your rod goes straight and your line goes slack. Now, most fly fishermen, when this happens, after a moment or two of swearing and cussing, go back to casting, right? Let's get another fish in the line. What you, well, I'm going to say never see is the fisherman standing there with a straight rod and a slack line, pretending to still have a fish in line. Oh, I got a whopper here. Let me reel him in, right? That doesn't actually happen. I like this metaphor as a way to demonstrate sort of the absurdity of going all the way through the sales process with a fish on the line, trying to bring him in, playing him towards the shore, and then the fish pops off the hook, but we're still standing there insisting the proposal's coming in, they're engaged, whatever the dynamic is, we're insisting that nothing has changed, though it obviously has. So keep this in mind as we go through the rest of the presentation. It's pretty basic, right? My simple rule, never leave a scheduled interaction without securing the next scheduled interaction. Never leave a meeting without agreement, mutual agreement to a specific time-bound, on the calendar, day and time zone, etc., next meeting. Sounds simple, right? I think we can all agree that it's important. One of the things I really want to focus on in this conversation is not so much just bludgeoning everybody with, you need to do this, but how do you do it effectively? And, what do you do in the situations where, the prospect tries to squirrel away, right? Where the fish is trying to flip the hook out of its mouth. So one more slide, if you will, on really cementing the concept of how does not getting the next schedule hurt us? Because believe it or not, I have a lot of clients, a lot of folks that I work with and coach who will insist that, it's not that big of a deal. Hey, this is a buddy of mine. We have a great relationship. They know me, they take my calls, etc. And while I appreciate, that's the job and responsibility of sales to develop strong relationships, for me, the concept of a next scheduled is so fundamental that it transcends any personal relationship or relationship with a contact that you might have. First and foremost, for me, one of the big challenges in selling is determining the difference between interest and engage, right? Is the prospect merely interested in something that I'm doing, or are they actually looking to invest in something to solve a specific problem? Are they engaged in the process? For me, somebody who is not willing to give you time on their calendar, who's always pushing you back to, no, you go ahead and, you're going to get back with me and you can follow up with me and you're going to do the work to get to me, isn't demonstrating even a basic level of investment that's going to determine that they're going to actually invest money in the relationship sometime down the road. Perhaps most important is this concept of status and credibility. At the end of the day, we are not some subordinate to the prospect, groveling, hand, or hat in hand, I should say, groveling on our knees, will you please buy our stuff? In most cases where we should strive to be is at their level, not necessarily above their level, but certainly at their level, offering to help them discover their problems, quantify the benefit of solving those problems, and then present a solution to help them better their business, better their situation. It is a general rule that people don't respect, and they certainly don't buy from those that they view as lesser than themselves, right? People don't seek advice from people who are less intelligent, less knowledgeable. When we allow a basic fundamental relationship construct called time to be something where their calendar is more important than our calendar, we're sending a very strong signal that we're below them. Their time is more important. Think about how many times you have chased a prospect, multiple emails that they've ignored, right? How is this okay? How is it okay for them to ignore 3-4 emails, but then when they want something, expect you to, snap their fingers and you're going to jump into it and get it done? The absurdity of that often kind of puzzles me. From a pure time standpoint, every non-scheduled meeting consumes anywhere from 3 to 7 touches to get back connected with the prospect. Think about that. Calls, emails, voicemail, no voicemail. At a minimum, you're making 3 additional touches every time you want to reconnect. So just from a pure consumption of your time standpoint, why do you want to be spending something? Why do you want to be spending your time on something that could be solved by a simple rule? Don't leave a meeting without a next scheduled. Those 3 to 7 touches not only consume your time, they prolong the sales cycle. How many interactions are there in the sales process? I don't know, 5, 7, 10, really depends. But if every one of those interactions is precipitated or linked, I should say, with well, call me back next Tuesday, right? And there's a standard interval, 2, 3, 4 days, a week, it doesn't matter. But then every suggested interval actually takes a week or even 2 longer because we're trying to coordinate calendars, get on each other. Imagine the impact over the course of a sales process, right? You're looking at the possibility to double or more the simple length of a sales process just by not ensuring that every meeting is connected to the next scheduled meeting. Probably the most powerful, I should say stressful impact of not setting a next scheduled is the fact that it creates pipeline uncertainty, right? One of the rules I have is that in a pipeline, if we're looking at opportunities in the pipeline, any opportunity that does not have a next scheduled meeting, in my mind becomes unforecastable, right? Any certainty we're trying to create around close date, when things are going to happen, when we're going to deliver, etc., immediately goes away because we don't even have the next step. Oh yeah, they're definitely going to do this, right? They're committed. They're 100% moving forward. That may be great, but the when is now unknown. And I want to use a story to really, truly, illustrate that. And anybody who's been in sales, anybody who's been trying to get a contract in at the end of a month, end of a quarter, end of a year, I think can relate to the story. So let's pretend that Friday is the end of the relevant period, whatever that is, month, quarter, year, doesn't matter. And it's Monday, right? And you're talking to a prospect, you've had a great relationship with them, everything's going fantastic, you've built a solid foundation with them, you have good communication, etc. And they've said, yes, we're moving forward, you're getting your resources lined up, etc. And it's Monday, and they say, yeah, we'll have the contract to you Friday, right? Sounds good, and seems like something, that's a no-brainer. So it's Monday, and you take their word for it, and you go about your week. And here we are at Friday morning, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., right? How you feeling? Well, you're feeling good. You got a contract coming in today. Why wouldn't you? Well, the day starts to go on, and now it's, 11:30 noon, and you start to wonder, where's that contract? I wonder what time it's coming in. Should I call them? Should I say, hey, where's the contract? Well, no, I don't want to seem like I'm bugging them. Gosh, that's pretty pushy. And we'll just give it a couple hours. Well, now it's 2 o'clock, 2:30, right? Maybe I should call them. And by the way, your sales managers come by saying, hey, where's that contract? You said it was coming in today. It's the end of the quarter. It's the end of the year. We need to get this done. Yeah, he said it'd be here. I'm sure it'll be here. Let's not worry, what have you. Well, now it's 3:30. I better call them, right? So you call them to get voicemail. Well, what do you say? Where's my contract? No, you're not going to be that pushy, right? This is somebody you've built a good relationship with. So you leave a voicemail saying, hey, just checking in, seeing where it is. Well, little do you know that they've already gone home for the day, right? It's the end of the quarter. They're done. Their work's put away. And we'll talk about their side of the equation in a minute here. Well, now it's the weekend, nothing you can do, but your stress level's pretty high because, you're thinking about this thing all Friday. You spent your energy, worrying about it. And as we said, your sales manager, maybe your VP is all over this deal. Well, now it's Monday. So what do you do now? Do you start hammer dialing at 9 a.m.? Well, no, you want to give them some time, right? You left a voicemail on Friday. Surely they'll get back to you. I'm going to cut this example short, but what I think you can see is that there's an awful lot of energy being expended on uncertainty, right? Not only is from a company standpoint this challenging, but think about the stress you're putting yourself through. Now, let's rewind to Monday, right? Same scenario, and your contact says, yeah, we'll get contract to you on Friday. And you say, that sounds fantastic. Listen, let me ask you this. What time on Friday do you think the contract will get over? I don't know. It should be here by noon. Wonderful. Listen, here's what I want to do, Bob. Since it's the end of the month, and heck, it's the weekend anyway, let's put a meeting on our calendars. I like to call it a contract confirmation meeting. Let's do it at 1 o'clock, right? It'll be 15 minutes. I'm going to send you a meeting invite. Purpose of the meeting is simple. I want to confirm the contract has showed up in my inbox, and I want to take a look at it, make sure the signatures are correct, make sure the little squigglies at the bottom or the scan came through or whatever. We'll have a quick connect, 15 minutes, and we'll go about our way. Have a great weekend, not worry about it, knowing we'll be launching with the project on Monday. How does that sound? Well, can't do Monday, I can do 1:30, right? That's a much better scenario, right? Come Friday, you're not really worried because you know you have a touch point with the prospect. You may or may not get the outcome you desire. He may tell you on Friday, hey, I can't get it done today, but there's no uncertainty, there's no unknown. Now, I'm going to share a little secret with you, right? And that is that what's going on the prospect side is this. Monday, they made a commitment to you. They probably wrote it on a sticky note or put it in their to-do list, sticky note on the computer stuck there in their to-do list, whatever. And the week went by and life happens, right? They are running a company, they're running their division, they're doing their own job, whatever it is. We finally get to about Friday and they remember, oh crap, I got to get that thing done. Well, we'll be fine for Monday. It's not going to kill them, right? It's too late, nothing I can do about it. Now, that's on the task list scenario. Going back to the same scenario on Monday, if you've put a meeting in their calendar for them, it's sitting on there, they're probably looking at this thing on their calendar all week. Maybe Wednesday, Thursday, they say, I got to get that done. I'm meeting with Townsend tomorrow. I got to get this over to the CEO for signature. Let me go do that. I don't want to show up to the meeting without having completed what I've gotten done. The secret here, folks, is very simple. People prioritize what's on their calendar, not what's on their task list. I'm going to say it one more time. Your prospects, everybody in your world will prioritize not the little to-dos they've promised, not what's buried in 200 emails, right, in their inbox. They're going to prioritize those items that relate to calendar events that they've agreed to attend. Most important thing you can take away from this conversation. So this is, a rhetorical question, but a lot of times I get pushback and argument from sales folks. Well, I have a scheduled meeting. They said call on Tuesday. That's not a scheduled meeting. Sorry, right? Friday, send me some suggested times. The only one here that's a scheduled meeting is Monday at 9 a.m. for 30 minutes. The general rule is this. If you have a meeting on their calendar where you send a meeting invite and they've accepted, you have an next schedule. This is 2017. We all have the technology to do this in our phones, etc. This is not a complicated endeavor to determine what is and what isn't. However, I do understand the powerful urge to not want to be pushy, to not want to overreach our relationship, etc. So we're going to talk about how we negotiate some of those nuances related to actually getting the meeting when our prospects resist. First, some simple approaches, right? One of the most basic things, and I'll talk about in a minute why we don't get the next scheduled meeting. And the first example, or I should say the first pushback is, we don't ask, right? If you can bake into your standard, meeting closing process, right, something like the following, you will dramatically improve not only your ability to get the next scheduled meeting, but the number of opportunities you can manage, the number of interactions you can keep track of, because you're not always in follow-up mode, right? So simple verbiage. Hey, with everything going on, I want to make sure this stays on my radar, right? Whatever it is, go, get me some additional pricing, go do whatever. I'm going to go check with somebody. Hey, listen, with everything going on, I want to make sure this stays on both our radar. We're not chasing each other, a week from now. Let's put something on the calendar right now, for next Thursday at 1 o'clock, right? The point here is you want to be presumptive. This is not, hey, what do you think about maybe setting a meeting next week? What do you think about putting something on the calendar, right? That's soft. That's not, in my mind, that's not doing your duty to help your prospect move towards the solution that you believe is going to help their business. So the key here is you're being presumptive. You are suggesting that this is the way that normal people do business because it is. Think about your friends. Think about personal relationships, right? There's folks that after hanging out with them for a bit, and they say, hey, we should catch up again soon. You say, yeah, we should catch up again soon, and you wander off, right? That's very different than, yeah, man, we want to play golf. Let's do golf next Saturday at 8 a.m., right? People that you want to engage with, people that are worth your time, you put on your calendar. What if they push back, right? Well, as we'll talk about in a couple minutes, pushing back or resistance to expending their time, committing their time to you, is a pretty, it's not a good sign, right? Somebody that's not willing to spend their time with you, I would say, may not be willing to spend their money with you. But if you're getting pushback, this might be an alternate approach, right? I don't want to put something in the calendar. Why don't you just follow up towards the end of the week, right? This is a very polite way of handling this. Not my favorite way, but it does work sometimes. Listen, I understand you don't want to put me in your calendar. However, I live my life through my calendar. That's how I manage things. I'm putting a meeting on my calendar next Thursday at 1 o'clock, so I don't drop the ball. I'm going to send you a meeting invite anyway. You can put it as tentative or what have you, but at least we have a placeholder right there. I'm going back to I'm sending a meeting anyway, right? I'm not going to accept your brush off that, no, just call me, right? People are protective of their time. Nobody wants to commit their time to anything, right? They're time starved between family, work, kids, their own personal, hobbies and things they want to do. Anybody requesting even a small amount of their time is going to get some resistance. It is your job to fight for that time, because that is what your relationship deserves, is that allocation of time to keep the relationship moving. What I run into a lot are situations where, account executive or a salesperson simply forgot, right? They hung up the phone and they said, oh man, I totally forgot to get the next meeting, right? Over time, habit will fix this. But one of the quickest things you can do to solve for this problem is send an immediate email, right? And I want you to note the format, the structure, and the subject and everything, because this is the format you should use, not a long-winded something that's going to get into their deal with later pile. But subject, apologies, suggested time to reconnect. Hey, Bob, I feel badly for not ensuring we scheduled a follow-up after our conversation yesterday, this morning, whatever. Here are a couple of times for us to meet, right? Note the send suggested times. If you download that Ultimate Guide to Ending No-Shows book that I have the link to connected here, you're going to see a lot of templates like this. But one of my keys to getting back on somebody's calendar is suggested times, 3 specifically. I don't say, how about next week? What does Tuesday look like? Because it requires too much back and forth. Send 3 suggested times that work on your calendar. There's a strong possibility they're going to open it on their little iPhone, look at it, hit reply, say, I'll take Tuesday at 1 o'clock, and you're done. Enough said. So why don't we get the next schedule, right? I already said, we don't have the right mindset. We forget about it. We're too nervous to ask. We don't think we deserve it. You got to get over that, right? The idea is, if you are working to help this person realize, the solution to a problem that they're trying to solve that's going to impact their business in a positive way, you have to show up as their equal. You have to show up as somebody deserving of their time. You have to show up as somebody who is worthy of time on their calendar. Past that, some of my favorites are this: uncertainty about their schedule. Well, I'm not sure what the next couple of weeks look like, right? Or even better, I don't have my calendar on me, right? That to me is probably the cheapest cop-out, but we hear it a lot, right? So here's what I want you to do. Don't take I don't know about my calendar as this is an unschedulable moment. Instead, the way I think about it is, if you don't know your calendar, if you haven't taken the time to organize your calendar, or worse, you don't have your iPhone or your Android in your pocket, right? That doesn't mean it's now my responsibility to chase you. What that means is I'm going to suggest a time, and if you don't like that time, the burden is on you to provide alternate time. So if you said to me, well, I don't have my calendar with me, I'll say, great, well, I'm thinking next Thursday. Generally speaking, how are Thursdays for you? Well, they're not great, but Wednesdays are okay. Great. I'm going to send you a meeting invite for Wednesday at 1 o'clock. If that doesn't work exactly, feel free to suggest an alternate, half an hour earlier, half an hour later, etc. But really, the onus will be on you to basically negotiate the additional time, and we can do it through the calendar invite. It'll be pretty easy. How does that sound, right? I'm not going to allow the fact that you, quite frankly, aren't organized enough to keep your calendar or bring your phone with you to mean, okay, now I go into chasing mode. That's absurd. Another great challenge for folks in scheduling the next meeting is multiple stakeholders, right? You got a demo with 10 people. Of course, you're not going to get to the end of the demo and negotiate a next schedule, right? Your prospect has brought in others. You've done this hour-long demo. You're running out of time. People are scrambling out of the room like cockroaches when the lights come on. And what's everybody screaming? Well, send us some times, we'll reconnect, or we'll get some times over to you, right? Amateur hour, don't do that. Very simple way to solve for this. If you're setting a multiple stakeholder meeting, a demo, a presentation, a proposal review, whatever, you know who your primary contact is, they're doing the coordination. Well, before you hang up the phone or the email that you're sending to schedule the demo, schedule that follow-up before the demo ever happens, right? So if I'm scheduling a demo next week with 8, 9, 10 people, you can bet your butt I am scheduling the follow-up call the following week or 3 days or whatever the appropriate interval is with my contact at a minimum. I'll say, listen, we're going to be getting to the end of this demo. Everybody's scrambling. I don't want to be fighting for the next 3 weeks to figure out when we're going to meet. Let's do this. You want to do the demo next Wednesday? Give us a few days. You guys regroup. Let's meet the following Tuesday at 1 o'clock. How does that work on your calendar? You pin your prospect down, right? Now, if you haven't done that, which you should, and it's easy to do, if you got a demo coming up, even if you haven't scheduled it before the demo, you can always send an email saying, hey, I realized we forgot to schedule a follow-up, right? Get it done. But if you walk into a demo and you haven't gotten a follow-up meeting agreed to post-demo, my basic rule is you don't start that demo until you have the next scheduled with your prospect. Everybody's in the room, doesn't really matter. You look your prospect in the eye and say, listen, I don't want to get to the end of this and all of us are scrambling with our calendars. Real quick, I'm looking at Monday at 1 o'clock. Can you and I put that on our calendar right now for a follow-up to this meeting? Here's the funny part. People will often say to me, well, isn't that pushy? Isn't that overreaching? I got news for you. That's called being a professional. That is called taking care of your prospect by ensuring that something that they're saying is important to them keeps moving forward. The next two are really in the same group, and that is they need to do stuff or we need to do stuff. How many times are you in a sales situation where they got to go talk to somebody, they got to go calculate something, they got to go check a budget, or I got to go find some references, I got to go see a discount I can get, right? For some reason, these two things, they need to do stuff, we need to do stuff, trigger this reflex in us that says, well, we can't possibly schedule, what we're going to do next until I'm done doing the stuff. Well, that's absurd, right? The stuff, whatever it is not going to take forever. It's not going to take a day, right? Well, I have to talk to my sales engineer about this. Okay, great. How long does that take generally? Well, sometimes it takes a couple days, sometimes longer. Okay, let's just call it a week, right? I would rather have the certainty of a meeting a week from now to go and talk to my sales engineer or my VP for a discount or whatever, the certainty of coming back to a scheduled meeting on my calendar, right? What's the worst that happens? I'm done early with my stuff, or they're done early with their stuff, and I'm waiting 2 extra days before I meet with them. Well, that's still a lot better than getting my stuff done, or them getting their stuff done, and the week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks it takes to get back on the calendar. So when there's stuff to do, always schedule a next meeting. Don't ever do stuff or let them get away with, I'm going to go do stuff without scheduling the next meeting. Make sense? Next two are pretty simple, actually, right? When you have a prospect who is simply unwilling to commit their time, on their calendar time to you, that is a very strong signal, a very strong indication that what you are talking about is of very low importance to them, right? Or that your relationship is not really what you think it is. So for me, unwillingness to commit their time is a very bad sign. And it often prompts for me a conversation with the prospect. When I sense or directly hear a prospect consistently saying, no, I'm not going to do this, you follow up with me, it's time for a very difficult but an important conversation. Mr. Prospect, I got a voice of concern. Throughout this process, every time we get together, the onus is always on me to chase you, to get back on your calendar. You haven't been willing once to set a next scheduled meeting to put us on a calendar, which, while I understand you're busy, that puts me in the awkward position of 3, 4, 5 voicemails, emails, etc., which most of them, frankly, you ignore to try and get back on your calendar. And the good news is we generally get back together on the calendar, but I got to tell you, it's a tremendous consumption of my time, and it sends a signal to me that either what we're working on is of very low importance, or that, frankly, I don't want to be disrespectful in saying this, but that you don't really value my time throughout this process, and that you think of me as just a salesperson kind of trying to get a deal here. So let's have a conversation about, does this even make sense to keep going, right? I say that's a scary or a hard conversation because no salesperson wants to hear, yeah, this deal really doesn't matter. But I'd rather hear this deal doesn't matter than spend the next 3, 6, 9 months chasing, burning all my time, only to have the deal fall off the map and end in no decision. So, food for thought on that one. Hope this has been helpful. As I said before, if you look at the little eye icon in the upper right-hand corner, you can click on that and download my ultimate guide to ending no-shows. Hope the presentation has been helpful. There's also a link in the description below. If there's any questions you have or things I haven't covered, feel free to leave in the comments. I do check these things all the time, and I'll be looking for those and also answering your questions as we go. I'm also pretty easy to find. You can find me on LinkedIn. I've got my contact information right in there. My website, townsendwardlaw.com, has a ton of great information, and I'm guessing in the upper right-hand side of this screen, you're seeing a bunch of related videos. I have about 80 or 90 videos on my YouTube channel. Most of them are like this. I really try to help people understand what I call the exactly how of selling, the very step-by-step process that you can use to up your game and make more money and have less stress in your life. Thank you so much for joining today, and happy selling.